Hi, this is Kim Hunt from Affinity Community Services. Welcome you back to the show. It is Pride weekend and there's lots of news to share. Major Supreme Court decision in favor of gay marriage, as well as other issues. Going to be in the parade this weekend, all of that. We're going to talk about marriage. We're also going to talk about some of those other issues that are important to our community. And our guest today is J.C. Wilson, who has been with us before and is a wonderful advocate, attends Chicago Theological Seminary, has his own social justice work that he does, is also a reporter for Windy City Times. So we have a lot that we're going to delve into today. Before I get started, today was a very special day. As I mentioned, we found out through the Supreme Court that marriage equality has now become the rule of the land, but it doesn't mean that all is well in the LGBT community. So I just want to read a post to get us started that I posted today as someone was commenting on what happened in South Carolina, as well as, all this other good news about marriage. And I said, I'm on my way back to the office from the marriage equality celebration at Sidetrack, which is still happening. I listened to the end of Obama's eulogy for Reverend Pinckney, where race was front and center. I've also been reflecting on how some people in LGBTQ communities treat each other at institutional and individual levels. The fact that families, chosen or birth, are being ripped apart due to immigration policies and the growing poverty in the community. For my own healing, I'm learning to celebrate milestones as I hold on to the reality that there's so much more work to do. So just starting with that, JC, days like this we celebrate a victory, but we know there's a lot more to do. How do you balance those two things?
I think for me, it's, I've really wrestled with that particular question today. I mean, as much as I've celebrated what we need, what the victory that we have, I believe now that we have it, we need to rightfully so celebrate it, but now realize it's time to start focusing on other issues that face our community.
And I believe we have a caller already. We just got on.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm good.
I have said this before. With gay marriage right now, I'm talking about the facts. They are the largest segment of the population that want to get married, and I think they're going to be like everybody else in a few years, where they're not going to want to get married because right now. There's a lot of lawyers probably maybe happy about it when they start getting divorced and had to divide up assets, and they're going to reflect the rest of the population. They're going to start living together again. It's just like voting, okay? People have the right to vote, but do people go out and vote like they should? And I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see the results of it.
Thank you so much for that call, and we'll talk about that. Thank you. And I think that's a good point, and that's one of the issues that's come up even earlier today. I was listening to NPR, and there was a professor on the air from University of Chicago who talked about really needing to have a more expansive view of family, that while marriage is, an important institution in the United States and other countries, that there are these other family models that are just as important, and just the need to make sure that all entities within a marriage are affirmed.
And also, I would say that one of the things that I've learned is that, for example, in talking to a clergy friend of mine, Anthony Sullivan, he pointed out that with the large number of black LGBT men who are dealing with HIV, that has inhibited their decision to get married because of income restrictions in relation to ADAP, the funding that you get for AIDS medication. So if you get married, then you go over that limit, and so that is something that has never been discussed. And I think that is one of the handicaps, for lack of a better term, of the campaign for marriage equality that was so frankly white, that it did not delve into issues that in relation to how it affected a variety of communities within the LGBT
I think
diaspora.
that's a great point, because we find even with, let's say, older adults who are receiving their Social Security payments or other benefits that come with retirement or a certain age, there are a lot of them who have chosen not to get married, even though they're in, maybe they're widowed and now they're in new relationships, but there's a penalty to marriage when it comes to the tax code and other benefits, as you've pointed out, and still the vast majority of folks are not married, and the bias towards marriage without taking into consideration the number of people who are in other types of family structures or single. The way benefits are set up is detrimental to some folks. I think we have another caller.
Yes,
Hello.
good evening. Great show. Now that this is over with, that's a great victory. But the thing is, now we can get down to a little more serious things like the crime in this city. I mean, just because they pressed for gays and lesbians, and now I'm even more afraid for gays and lesbians, because now you got these crazy people with them guns that just might take it out on you. But the thing is, the crime in this city is so bad, nobody cares about it. And now that the schools are so bad that the children don't learn, and yet the teachers get erased, the principals get erased. Now they're going to have to raise the taxes here in Cook County again. I mean, I'm on a fixed income. I live here on something, so I'm fine, because the gas is 40 to 60 cents a gallon cheaper, and everything else. But how about the other people that are that can't afford to come to the south side of Chicago? Okay, that's all I want to know. And thanks for the time, and thanks for the vote. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the call. Another great point. Our callers are brilliant. So marriage is, one issue in the community, and there are all these other issues that impact us as well. And that's definitely some of the things that we wanted to talk about today, not taking away from this victory when it comes to marriage, but knowing that there are so many other issues that are equally important, or perhaps more so, in our community, especially when you think about the fact that LGBTQ people of color tend to live in communities of color, and all that comes with that in terms of disinvestment of many city services in some cases, the conditions of our public schools, the conditions of housing options and employment, and all of those things. Those that affect people in the LGBT community just as much as anyone else, and sometimes to a higher degree, especially when you're looking at transgender and gender nonconforming individuals. So, you and I, in discussing the show, knew that there was a possibility that the Supreme Court would decide in favor of marriage, and we wanted to talk about some of the other issues that are equally as important. And one of the things we mentioned talking about is the shootings in San Diego, and just the impact on dealing with the whole race issue, because what a lot of people, I think, don't realize is that people of color are more likely to identify as LGBT than whites, and so there's a lot that comes with that. And I don't know if you were watching the coverage of Obama's speech or anything related to the funerals that are now occurring.
wasn't able to view some of that coverage now because I was doing some ministerial related things. However,
I forgot to mention that JC is going to be a minister real soon, right? You're in seminary now.
Yes, so,
So
about a
you're
year.
already doing it.
About a year. So, but I have noticed. I will speak to some of the other ways he is trying to really lift up the fact that racism exists. I mean, looking at the responses to the Confederate flag
Yes.
situation,
Yes.
and just really kind of finally being able to articulate, or feeling freer, I think, to articulate his views on the reality that we face in this country, the reality that we have been founded on a racist foundation, and that the successes that our nation enjoys were, built by slave labor. So, yeah.
Do we have another caller? Goodness.
Good evening again.
Hello.
I had said this ages ago, and I'm looking forward. It's really going to be a clash between the women group and the GLT group. Because I said this because in a few years from now, and scientists are already doing this, when they be able to come up with a test and see whether or not children, how they say it, is predisposed in terms of being gay, and a parent will be able to make the decision whether or not to have that child or to abort it. It's really going to be a problem, and gay rights and some other problems, one of the issues in the gay community. That's really going to be a real serious issue, and they're going to argue, they're going to debate that, because just imagine, because you may be gay, mommy may abort you.
Yeah. Thank you for your call. That's something that I think some people have talked about for sure, and I see not so much in terms of abortion, but just the number of individuals, youth in particular, who have been kicked out of their homes because they identify as LGBT or assumed to be LGBT.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously been a real problem. I mean, we're looking at, according to CPS, Chicago Public Schools identify that there are about 15,000 annually that are classified as homeless students. Of those 15,000 annually here in Chicago, and of those students, 3,000 are LGBTQ. And I get those statistics from the Night Ministry, which I'm interning with, Night Ministry Youth Outreach, and we set up a van at the intersection of Belmont and Halstead, offering food on Tuesdays, and then food and hygiene kits, including condoms, and then we also provide testing, HIV testing, among other kinds of testing, including so it's a problem that is still occurring, and really needs a lot of attention, and the Night Ministry, the Crib, which is a LGBT homeless shelter in Lakeview, among others, have really been trying to sort of confront that problem.
I believe we have another caller. Wow.
Yeah, good evening to y'all. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, it seems like the United States is cursed, because the reason I say that, because you see a lot of violence and a lot of killing, and they can't. Hello?
We're here.
Okay, the reason why you hear all about the killing and stuff, because I think it's a curse, because they stole the land from the Native American. That's why you see a lot of violence and murder here. If they would have gave the land back to the Native American, it would have been peaceable. And y'all doing a good job.
Thank you. Well, the United States has many things to answer for, that's for sure.
Amen.
And I think, just even in terms of how, we're a land where majority rules, and so sometimes it takes a lot for the minority to gain the rights that they should have. And this marriage battle has been a long one, even before it became popular as a battle. There were folks fighting for marriage equality for any number of reasons, and including a recent past because of the prevalence of AIDS in the community back in the 80s. There was really a push for marriage just so couples' rights could be protected, and they could be acknowledged even at something as simple as going to a funeral of the partner that you've had for 5 years or 20 years. There were folks who were being pushed away from their loved ones and not acknowledged at all. So this is a land where majority rules, but the minority is also supposed to have rights, and it's a constant battle. And some of the Facebook messages that I've seen today are just about that how one part of your identity has been affirmed today with the Supreme Court, and another part in many ways is under assault daily.
And as I said, I was talking with someone, and as I said, I finally feel whole due to this decision, and just kind of reflecting as you talk about the history of this long road. I mean, there were so many ways that people tried to find alternatives. I mean, adoption became a great a way that was used for years. I mean, I recall there was a fairly well-known person who now I have whose name I've now forgotten. But this concept was really was used, as far as I can tell, as early as the 20s.
Wow. Another caller. Popular show today. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. For the first time in my life, I'm 60 years old. For the first time in my life, I feel like a human being.
Amen.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
It's wonderful. I can get married. I can't believe it. I never thought I would see this in my life.
Yes. Well, celebrate.
I will.
All right.
Have a wonderful weekend, both of you.
You
Thank
too.
you.
And speaking of the weekend, this is Pride weekend. So it's interesting that here in Chicago, anyway, for when our Pride weekend is, that this decision should come down this particular day as Pride festivities are gearing up. I was at Sidetrack earlier today for the press conference. I'm sure there will be many more about marriage, and this is going to be a wild Pride, but I want to draw attention to something that will be happening during this Pride weekend, because there's actually been an outbreak of, and I have a hard time saying this word, invasive meningococcal disease, IMD, and one person has died. So there are actually vaccines that will be administered this weekend and available at Pride, as well as what we like to call Black Pride over at Montrose. And so folks need to avail themselves of those vaccinations, especially if you're HIV positive. One person has died, just one, thank God. But this is serious, so folks need to stop over at the various places to get their vaccines. You can dial 311 if you don't know where to go, but I will say that throughout Boys Town this weekend, and also at what used to be called the Rocks, but is now called Pride at Montrose, there will be vaccines available. So if you are HIV positive, and especially MSM, Black MSM, please, please, please get the vaccine. If you don't know where to go, dial 311. I believe we have another call. Hello, you're on the air.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, how you all doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
So far, so good. This is Nelson. I've called several times.
Hi, Nelson.
And I just want to say congratulations today.
Mm-hmm.
As a little black kid from the west side of Chicago who was bullied, who never thought that they would see a black president, who has seen many of his friends die from AIDS because they didn't have health insurance or there wasn't social programs in place at the time to help them, and some churches that said, go die somewhere else. Don't let this day just pass. And I know there are a lot of problems in our community.
Yep.
And I know people are calling in saying that there are other things that possibly is more important. But I'm just wanted to say congratulations because today is your day.
Amen.
I never thought I would live to see I can marry who I love.
Yes.
Amen.
We can end the show now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where's the
Oh
question
my
for?
goodness. That's it. Whether you want to get married or not is another matter. You certainly have the option now. Didn't have the option across the land. We were fortunate in Illinois that marriage passed in 2013, became effective in 2014. But think about all those other states where, you may not have a big city like Chicago for folks to even come to express their love, and all that those folks are enduring, and folks, even in certain neighborhoods and big cities. So this is a big day, and I think when you do social justice work, you get a little cynical. So it's hard to celebrate victories like this because you see that there's so much more work to do. But if we don't stop to celebrate these victories, then, I think as a social justice person, you burn yourself out.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's without celebrating justice, your victories ring hollow.
Now you're working with an organization now. You mentioned this to me. What's the name of the organization? What is the work?
Well, it's Chicago LGBT Asylum Support Program, and we offer food, shelter, links to legal access to those seeking asylum in the United States, and they are, all of them are gay men fleeing anti-gay countries, and we hope to start reaching out to the DBT of, or the L and the B and the T of that group as well. But right now we are serving about 9 gay men from Africa and other areas here in Chicago. One is being housed at the co-founders home, and then another is being housed through a partnership with Namaste United Church of Christ. And so we're just doing that work to make sure that we provide a sanctuary for men who are fleeing to the U.S. to be themselves, not only to be themselves, but to survive.
Yes, the work continues, that's for sure. I want to, as we wrap up, which I can't believe it's time for this, mention that there is a Pride Parade in Boys Town on June 28th, this Sunday, but there's also what is a tradition among Black LGBT people, which is to go over to Pride at Montrose and Pride at along the lakefront, and there will be a music festival going on. There will be HIV prevention work and testing, and the vaccines that I mentioned before are going to be available. So we want folks to come out and avail themselves of that. And then lastly, I just want to mention that Affinity's big event, Jazz in July, is July 18th, which is a Saturday evening, and you can check out our website at affinity95.org to get more information on that. So we are doing this the weekend of Pride in Chicago, so I want to tell everybody happy Pride, be safe, and take care of yourselves. Thank you, and we'll see you next month.